Okay, thank you, Adele.
Although everybody really should take a minute and look at Mary L, because she's being eaten alive by a very little puppy. It just makes you happy.
Here we go. Yeah, Jin Shin Jitsu is for all beings, from the teeny, teeny, tiny to the very, very old at the end of life and everything in between. So, Adele, I thought I'd start and just give a little quick overview. How does that sound?
I think I'm 100% on.
I'm going to share my screen for just a moment. Okay. So this is my quick and easy overview for people who are new to Jin Shin Jitsu. I always like to say Jin like you drink, Shin like your leg, and Jitsu like the martial art. It is a light touch, energy harmonizing modality. And when I say light, it's just if you put one hand on top of the other, that is the pressure that you will be using with your animal or yourself. Though you may find that some animals push against you and want more pressure to just feel your contact, but that doesn't make any difference in the work. So it's this circulation pattern that runs through the body, like your lymph, like your blood. This is your electrical system. And I always like to say, you're not made of energy, you are energy. It's everything that you are, not only your physical being, but your mental, emotional being too, your thoughts. Everything is energy. And we have 26 locations that we use, pairs on the right and left side. And I'm going to quickly show you some of those. Today, we're going to be working with 2 in particular. And the results of this light touch, where we are just connecting and sparking the energy with our fingertips, we are not filling up, taking out, moving around. That's not our job. We spark the energy system with our fingertips, and then the being's energy starts to come into balance in its own natural way. So it's easy. Now I wanted to show you this. This gives you a little idea of how energy moves, and I love it on a horse. With people, we think of it coming down the front. That's your exhale. Think of a rocking chair. Letting go. Up the back, the inhale. So we're this circulation pattern that connects through the breath, but it also has to do with the way energy circulates, and it goes deeper and deeper and divides and goes into different forms. We call those the meridians. You recognize that in acupuncture. We think of it the same way, but we're not going to go that deep into that today. But so on an animal, the exhale is like underneath the body, and the inhale comes up along the spine. And so it's this continuous circulation. And then we get these energetic locations on the body. So here they are in a human. On all beings, they are about the size of the palm or the hoof or the paw. For example, on the puppy that Mary has today, those energetic centers are going to be very small. On a bird, even smaller. On an elephant, even larger. And these energetic centers help the body. I call them the fuse boxes. They kind of lock up when we're having like too much or too little. They give us information. They may be sore and tender on our body. On your animal, you may feel a raised location. These are the areas that we touch lightly that spark the energy of the body. And the result is unique to every being. And the locations are basically also the same for every being. So a lot of you who have been doing this work with animals know this, but I wanted to show people quickly generally where these locations are on animals. And this is from Adele's textbook. This is one of the drawings that we use to let us see where they are. And they have lots of numbers. There's a reason. Each number has a purpose, a name, a reason for its location, and they're all the same. So this is a dog. Here you can see it's the same for a cat. Now you can see this is a horse. Now the horses are going to be bigger as well. So these 26 pairs on the right and left side are what we're going to work with and what you'll be practicing with. Because once you take this today, if this is your first introduction to Jin Shinjutsu for animals, you are already going to have something that you can start using. All right. So today, what we're going to be working with in particular is 2 energetic centers. And we're talking about calming your animal. And as we talk about this, I want you to try this on yourself too. The first location that we're going to be using is called Energy Lock 4. So I told you each one has a number. We call these safety energy locks, or SELs for short. So when you come to a study group and someone says SEL 25, you know this is an energetic center, it's number 25, and it's in a particular location. This one on a human is right here at the back of the head on the occipital. So take your hands, and you can even interlace your fingers if you want or not. And let's feel back there. See what you notice. You might feel a tender spot. That's the energy lock. And that is it talking to you, telling you, I'm a little stuck. I'm a little locked up. I need your attention. So energy lock 4, I think you've all done this. Laid back on the earth or in your hammock, let go, and looked up at the stars or the clouds. This energetic location helps us to see more clearly. And in actuality, the right side helps your left eye, or your horse, dog, cat's left eye. Your left hand will help the right eye. But in a more emotional state, it will help you digest the world through your eyes, see things more clearly, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually. Same for your animal. That's the first energetic center we'll be working with. Now, your arms don't have to be out here like you're doing a sit-up. You can relax them. You can, find what feels good. And when we do what we call self-help, which is when you work on yourself, you may notice that one side is more comfortable to reach or touch than the other side. What feels good is what your body is calling to. Same with your pet. You touch in on a location with your dog and you watch him melt. That's what he needs. If he pins his ears back when you try to touch the other side, he's telling you either that's not where I want it or I'm not ready yet. That's a little too much. So this is energy lock 4. And on a horse, dog, or cat, it's right behind the ears. It's where they like to be scratched and rubbed. So very similar. And Adele's going to show you in more detail when she does the demonstration. So I'm just giving you the basics. Now, here's the next one. This is energy lock 13. 13 is easy to find. It's hotter than Hades here in Kentucky. So I've got my sleeveless shirt on today to show you. If you find your clavicle bone here, and remember, your animal does not have a clavicle, and you kind of follow bump, bump, bump about 3 ribs down, just kind of follow your hands down. You can have your hands this way or crossed. and see if you can find a tender spot about 3 ribs down, just above the breast area, center of the chest. This is energetic location number 13. And so here we are, right in the center of the chest, below the clavicle. So it'll be below the chest of your animal, kind of between their legs. This is all about relationship. It can help with a lot of things, such as reproduction. But it can also just simply connect you to the heart, the physical heart and the emotional heart. When we work with animals or even ourselves, sometimes we just put our hands right here. So I like to cross my hands, and you might try it too. Put your hands on that energetic center and exhale. Just hold this for a moment. This hold is oftentimes part of one of the first things we do when we meet an animal and work with them. It's about connecting our heart to theirs. And when I work with any animal, I take a few minutes. I might hold my fingers one by one, even with one hand here at the center of the chest. Or I just might cross my hands, hold my heart, and I send them a greeting, letting them know that I've come for them, not to fix them. And it's on the front of the body, so it's on the exhale. Makes you want to let go. So the 4s were on the back, it's the inhale. That is the basics of the 2 things that we're working with today. The 13 and the 4. And now I am going to stop sharing my screen. Hopefully that works well for you. And if you all have any questions as we go, you can put them in the chat and we will try to get to you towards the end. But now Adele is going to show you on her dog. Who do you have today, Adele? I'm going to pin her so we can see.
Sorry, I had muted. There we go. So Carmen had topped up in the bed, but I would be unfair. Let's see. I think it's pinned. There we go. So Rocco is over there working hard. So he deserves some love too. Anyway, thank you, Jennifer. That felt so good. You could keep talking. I'm just going to hold. I did want to take a moment and just say to folks, if you are new to sharing Jinshin Jitsu with animals, I would like to encourage you to put your email and actually your location, if you like, in the chat. One of the best sides of this pandemic, if you can say that, is that we've made this Jinshin Jitsu for animal community. And I love that that's happened and it's spreading around the world. So we're asking for your emails just so we can let you know about upcoming events and classes. We won't, I promise we won't mush that around and you won't get ads for toilet paper or whatever. Anyway, so yes, I am here with Carmen Bell Edwards, and I am going to pull up my screen for just a moment. So here is the enlargement from my book of 2 ways to hold and facilitate safety energy lock 4. You can hold just the 4s, up behind the ears. This is my go-to thunderstorm specialist. Or you can hold, like Jennifer just showed us, that 4 and 13. 1 and 3, 4, 4, 4. So we're getting the energy of fourness, that window, allowing in air and consciousness. And we're getting it through the 13, the exhale, and through the 4, the inhale. There we see it on the dog, and here we see it on the horse. One of the things that people have questions about usually, often, when they start this work is, but how do I find the safety energy locks on another species? Here's the thing. This is universal life energy. So fourness, if you will, on a person, a dog, a cat, a pig, a goat, a leopard, it's all the same. It is where the head meets the skull meets the spine. Okay, maybe we'd have to use different verbiage for a snake, but it's still where that head and that spine come together. Yes? And up at the top, you'll see just some of the very general things that it helps. Head, eye, general fatigue, emotions, same side limbs, and dying. That sounds like a weird thing to help, but it does make the departure from the body smoother. One thing I love about Mary Burmeister's verbiage, she doesn't talk about disharmony. She talks about harmony. So she doesn't say, oh, it helps a headache. Oh, it helps eye strain. She says it helps the head. So everything about the head is helped with the 4s. So it's a tooth project, it's an ear project, it's an eye project, it's a sinus project. If it's in your head, the 4s are going to help. Yeah. So let's see. Wow, that worked. Yay. Okay, I am going to hop back to Miss Carmen. Excuse me just a moment. Lots of study groups don't even have Dora the Explorer as part of it, but we do here because that just makes her happy. She's got herself turned a little screwy, so she's a very high-strung girl, you can see, huh? Now I've put my safety energy locks way over here. All right, so safety energy lock 4, yes. You can see it here, base of the skull. If you nod yes and no, that is your 4, where you feel the movement. And I'm going to plop it right up here. And you can't see that at all. I'm going to put it on her ear so you can see it sideways. You can hold both 4s easily with one hand on a dog. On a horse, maybe not so much. Like I said, the very first thing I think about this for is we're in the Panhandle in Florida, fast moving storms. So Scirocco is a thunderstorm boy. He gets very wound up. Oh, thank you, girl. Where are we going? Off the bed. Okay. So lots of times what I do for those thunderstorms is I hold both 4s and I actually cover the ears with my other fingers. And I just get into a really deep, centered rhythm. And in Mary's verbiage, in a few moments, more or less, you start to feel that universal pulse. And many animals, when they know, Jinshin Jyutsu is cumulative. So when they know this, they know your hands, they know this gentle holding, just putting your hands on sends them the message. They're going to be fine. everything is calm and peaceful as it should be. Yeah. Our other fellow here, Safety Energy Lock 13, living in the second depth, helping deep skin. Well, I didn't mention that. Safety Energy Lock 4, first depth, meaning it has a connection to your immunity, your digestion, and your skin surface. Second depth, deep skin, your respiration, digestion, and deep skin. Center of the breastbone. So I'm going to stick it a little below. There we go. So that you can see that there. It's a pretty comfy way to just settle in and hold both. As Jennifer mentioned, lots of times we use this 13 as a starting point for the work. Many of you are familiar with holding Safety Energy Lock 13 and 10. But there are animals who don't want you coming over their back. Not good for them. So then asking about a 4 is often a good way to start. And listen, I don't walk in to a dog or an animal who's never had the work and plop my hands down. That's just no way to win brownie points. So this is a great place to scratch and itch. Almost everybody likes to be petted behind the ears. And then after a few minutes, you can kind of let your hands slow down. Yeah. We got to get their trust. And we have to earn their respect. So if they think you don't even know how to pet, they are not going to be impressed with your hands. So take the time, let yourself settle in. How about some other things that helps? Yes, like we said, everything about the head, specifically the 4 helps the opposite eye. So you can see I'm on her left 4 now. That is going to be the most specific help for her right eye. It will help the left eye as well, but not quite as strongly. Yeah. Because the 4, as Jennifer explained with that beautiful diagram, exhale down the front. Good girl. Oh, see that? Inhale up the back. The 4 is the very end of the inhale. The only place to go from here, out the window, and the exhale down the body. So sometimes just in yourself, you get those tension headaches at the back right in there. That is your body saying, hey, you're not exhaling. So I love this. It's such a great respiratory helper. Calming respiratory, eyes, head, general fatigue. Because you are letting go and deeply receiving, it's going to help energize the body. Same side limbs. This one is really important because say you're talking about an animal, we'll move Dora, who has gotten something down here right in the middle of the pad. I know, isn't she ridiculously easy? The pad of her hind paw. And say she doesn't want that touched. Say it was a puncture, or she picked up a sand spur or something like that. Or it's limping. She jumped off the couch wrong. Doesn't want to be touched back there. Fair enough. I hold the 4 and 13. And the side that I'm holding on, it's going to help the front and hind leg. Which leads me to a little story. Years ago, I was fairly new to the art. I had Amitai, that dog who started me on my journey. He had started limping on that left hind leg, really not using it. I was organizing a class in New Orleans, a human class. The teacher, Susan Brooks, was there teaching. And I asked her at the end of a very long day, would she mind working on my dog? Okay, now I get that that was inappropriate. But back then, that's what I did. She touched him for a few minutes and she said, 4 and 13. Me, in my very calm lack of wisdom, said, oh my heavens, you think he's dying? And she said very calmly, Adele, same side limbs. That made a big impression. But why I jumped to that conclusion is that the 4 is called the window, allowing in light and air, representing knowledge and consciousness. So when a being is passing or even getting ready to pass, holding the 4s can assist them. Holding the 4s is not going to kill them if it's not their time, but it can make the crossings gentler for both them and for the owner, because you get in touch with that natural energy and you feel when it's reached the end of this journey on this plane. So for all of those reasons, I am passionately in love with the 4 and 13. Jennifer, I'm going to ask if you can hop back on and share that little story about the horse the other night.
Yes, yes, yes. I was just thinking about that. And we do have someone who's here today who talked about kind of end of life care. And also I wanted to address just a quick thing that, hold on, I'm going to put me back here. Okay, I'll put Adele back up here with me too. But one thing I wanted to say is if you're working with a bird, when one of you has a bird that they're working with, when you do this at first, if you don't have a gentle, cuddly bird, I've done this with chickens before, you can work kind of off body with them a little bit. Just hover your hands nearby or close to if they're in a cage. If you have an injured bird, sometimes you have the ability to do this and actually touch. So that was one thing I wanted to tell you. And then in terms of the end of life, I just wanted to say quickly, I do a lot of palliative care. And I recently had a champion quarter horse jumper who was 30 years old, and he just recently passed. And I've been working with him for years. Really, he was in great shape. But this day happened to be the last time I got to see him. I had worked with the 4s above his head and the 13s, just right under his chest. And he just relaxed, his whole neck relaxed and dropped. He got very, very soft in the eyes. He had free reign over this farm. And in fact, his particular stall had 2 doors, an entry and exit, and he could come and go at his leisure. And there was a horse across the way that he never really communicated with. But after we did this 4 and 13, and then he got hungry, started eating all his grain, all his hay. He hadn't been eating well for the last few days. He walked out to his stall and he went right over to Linus, this other big jumper, and greeted him. And we were all kind of in a state of shock. The next day, he got up, walked out of his stall, walked over to another part of the farm where his owner lived, laid down in the grass behind her home, and basically made it apparent for her that he was ready to go. It was on his timing. He was euthanized, but he made it really clear to her that it was his moment, his time. Now, did Jinshin Jitsu make that happen? No, but it did, open him so that when it was time, it was his timing. And sometimes as humans, we have to participate in this. If he was out in the wild, he would have been attacked by wolves or something like that. But it is our honor and privilege to help them when it's time to pass over. And if I had been there, I would have been doing this hold at the time of his actual passing to really deeply connect. And I would have counseled them to do that, but it all happened so quickly. So it's a big gift, but it's also a connector at any other time of your time with your pet. So we both really believe in it, right, Adele, and encourage you to try this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I wish she was a little more wound up at the beginning so you could see her relax, but that's not my Carmen. I'm so excited about this. I'm going to throw this in as Jinshin Jyutsu as a lifestyle choice. I adopted Carmen from a cruelty case about 4 years ago. At the time, she had cancer and she had a left hip issue from being, they thought, what they told me was, battered with a blunt object. They presumed something like a 2x4. And she came this sweet. Anyway, she had a little stuff going on. I took her for her senior vet care. Oh, Jude hasn't heard this update yet. We were on the phone the other day while I was waiting. So the vet called me yesterday to say all of her senior blood care was back. And she said, and I quote, "I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it," because her blood work is that of a healthy 5-year-old. She's now 9. And she said it's healthier than when she came to you, younger than when she came to you. So, Yahoo. Yeah. So that's not just the 4 and 13. I mean, none of you would believe me if I didn't say I gave her the spleen flow, but it is a lifestyle choice and it is a way to connect with them.
Absolutely.
To know their spirits.
And if some of you who are here today are new to Jinshin Jyutsu, you heard some terms that you haven't heard before: spleen, depths, those kinds, different types of circulation. There's so much to know, but you can start with just the most simple way of beginning. So don't worry if something feels like, woo, a little over the top. Just start where you are. We really have run out of time today, but if anyone, I don't see any questions in the chat, Adele. If anybody has a last minute question, if you want to type it in quickly, we'll try to answer.
Or just raise your hand.
Yeah, or raise your hand. That's awesome too. Otherwise, we'll sign off for today. I
just want to add, though, on this Saturday, on the June 18th, at 2:00 Eastern time, I do a webinar through JSJ Inc. You can find it on my website, which is exotically called jsjforyouranimal.com. It's a 2-hour webinar on using Jinshin Jyutsu as first aid with your pups. And yes, we'll cover the 4 and 13, but there'll be a whole bunch of other things too. And that is open also for beginners on up. So.
All right, everybody. And so just keep looking for us on websites. I'm Jennifer Bradley, JSJ, on Instagram and Facebook. We love to share lots of things with you. If you ever have any questions, I also put my email in the chat. But there's lots of ways to get a hold of us, and jsjforanimals.com will tell you about classes coming up. Last opportunity, if you want to put your email in the chat for us, and we'll stay in touch. Otherwise, come back again. Really happy to have you here today. And practice this. Normally, let us know what happens.
Normally, we would be back on Monday, July 4th. But since it is Monday, July 4th, we are going to postpone a week, and we will be back for a study group on Monday, July 11th at 8 p.m. Eastern. That's to make it easier for all you West Coasters. But I love you. You got up at the crack of dawn. So we are the first Monday and the third Thursday of the month. And thank you, Jennifer, and thank you to all who tuned in.
Thanks, Adele. This was a pleasure to be together. Thank you, everybody. Practice, and as I always like to say, report back. We love to hear the stories. Bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
For Adele. Awesome.
Yay. Oh, look at, there's Lynn. I didn't see a lot of folks. And Corey's there, and Mardell. How wonderful. Just great. Just great.
Good to be with you all.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thanks, Lynn.
Yeah.
Mm.
I'm gonna go. And Jennifer, when you get that recording, if you can share that with me. And Yahoo.
Adele? Adele? Are you there?
I am.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, you can. Okay. I just want to say I signed up for your class tomorrow.
Yes.
However,
Saturday. It's Saturday.
yeah, I know that, of course. My days, it's early. But it turns out I have to do a session, so I have to